Hey there, I'm here to interrupt your regularly scheduled entertainment. Growing up, I didn't have much. Being in extreme poverty, I couldn't afford things like cable or satellite television, so I wasn't as well versed in the typical shows that other kids my age would watch. One thing my parents did like to spend their incredibly limited amount of money on, though, was movies. Pretty much any film that had some sort of theatrical release, my parents would buy, regardless if the movie was good or bad. Did this contribute to my extreme poverty situations? Oh, definitely. 100%. Of course. I used to watch so many movies, in fact, as a child, that I considered myself a bit of a cinephile for a short amount of time in my life. While I no longer watch movies in the same degree as I did as a child and teenager, I still have a vast appreciation for the art form of cinema. One thing about me watching literally every movie my parents purchased is that for a long while, I never really gauged whether or not a film was good or bad. I would simply just kind of enjoy the experience of watching a movie. While now, as an adult, I still don't consume films with the intent of overanalyzing the hidden meaning behind each scene. I do like to take the surface level details into account, like if a character is a good person, or if certain situations even make sense in the context of the film. And that leads us to today's video, where I'm going to be unhinged screaming about one of the dumbest subjects ever, and nobody asked for this, so here we go. Daddy Daycare is one of the hundreds of movies that my parents had purchased over the years, but unlike many other films, this was one I actually got to see in some sort of theatric setting. While not in an actual movie theater, I went to see it in a drive-thru when the one local to my area was still selling tickets based on per car and not per person. That probably aged me significantly, but oh well. The film was released in 2003 and is about a man named Charlie who was recently fired from his job at a cereal company. Unable to afford the outrageous tuition fees for a pretentious preschool program, Charlie and his best friend Phil decide to open up their own daycare service as an affordable alternative in the area. And a quick comment that the movie includes this dog in the poster, whose name is apparently Soda. Love that for him. But he is only featured for a very brief 30-second clip featuring this completely totally not funny poop joke. Why was this dog on the poster? He's super important to the film or something. What kind of marketing tactic was this? This seems really false advertising. I know the dog's technically in the movie, but not enough to be on the poster. Come on. This movie is a comedy, but the comedy of the movie focuses very heavily upon the antics of, wow, look how clueless men are with taking care of kids, ha ha ha, and generally kids saying and doing weird and funny, kind of unscripted things. At the time of watching this as a child, I thought it was pretty funny due to the child shenanigans that the movie tended to highlight, especially since all of the kids in the film were about the age ranges of my younger siblings at the time, so I really related to the pain that the adults were having because I too had to deal with kid shenanigans. However, watching this film as an adult, while still moderately entertaining, holds some mild icks for me, especially with this deeply rooted sexism that the film inhibits. While one could argue that the film intends to have a more progressive lesson about men just being as capable as women when it comes to caregiving for children.
Hey, wait a minute. Don't you believe in equality amongst the sexes?
Yeah, can't men do everything women can do?
Most of the film's comedy is completely reliant upon this preconceived notion that men just don't know how to handle kids. I feel that since they hammered this sexism in at the beginning of the film, with the other parents believing that Charlie and Phil were gross weirdos for wanting to run their own daycare service.
Is this the daycare place?
They're guys. They're all guys.
They're what?
Excuse me, listen. We are two loving, caring parents, and we run a daycare center.
A couple of sickos is what you are.
That there could have been some more on-the-nose sections later in relation to Charlie acknowledging, at least to Kim perhaps, how difficult his new job was and perhaps to show some sort of newfound appreciation for her. The movie really focuses more on the father aspect. It's called Daddy Daycare, but it's to the point where the mother characters are really placed on the extreme back burner in my opinion. Kim is the only mother character in the entire film that has any sort of really developed role. Phil's wife plays such a minor role in the film, in fact, that I feel they could have made him a single father and it would not have changed the storyline in the slightest. She's barely shown, with her only real speaking role, as far as I remember, even though I literally just watched the movie yesterday. The only real speaking role she has is during the flashback sequence moments when Phil is describing how much he is like traumatized and hates changing diapers. Peggy, who is a character at the very beginning of the film, is shown to be like a friend to Charlie and Phil, but she pretty much completely vanishes after she vouches for them in front of the other moms in order to kickstart the enrollment process for the other kids in the daycare.
Wait, you're gonna leave Nikki here with these guys?
Yeah. Oh, come on, you have trouble with them being guys? What are you, from the Dark Ages? Aren't you for all that gender equality and all that jazz?
Peggy, come on. Of course we are.
Okay, so can't women do what men do and men do what women do? These guys could do the job.
But you're gonna vouch for these two?
Yeah, I'll vouch for them. I'll vouch for these guys.
Okay. Just, I'll try it.
All right.
You're gonna do it.
Come on, have a great time.
Okay.
Right, kids?
You're a real lifesaver.
You know what? You screw this up, I'm gonna kill you with my bare hands.
And Dylan's mom, Kelly, is only really named for the sake of being the love interest to Marvin.
Hey.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Are you the new daddy?
I'm your daddy. I'm not your daddy. Well, I'm your baby's daddy. I'm not your baby's daddy. I'm gonna be.
You're Marvin.
Wow, woman so hot forced man to say inappropriate thing. Funny. And she like finds it charming for some reason, is like really into it. Like, oh wow, that's so funny. Oh, okay. Which, given that Marvin is like the mega nerd that everybody thinks is so weird because he smells the mail and he's such a nerd, and Peggy's child, the one that like completely vanishes, her child Nikki is the one that speaks Klingon through the film. So I think it would make more sense for him to like get with her at the stage, but I guess whatever. Ultimately, Marvin's little like side romance shtick didn't really make any difference in the film besides trying to get him to be in this like daddy aesthetic for the brand of daddy daycare. Which also quickly to note, despite what he says potentially being true for whatever franchise he is nerd referencing, I feel Marvin is like super prototype Big Bang Theory humor because like, yeah, he's a nerd that just kind of references shit all the time that no one fucking understands, and that's supposed to be, haha, it's so funny, isn't he? So fucking weird, wow, haha. And the fact that, like, they really rely on the audience not knowing what the fuck he's talking about means that he can just spew out any old weird-ass nerd shit, and they just expect us to laugh about it, even if the shit he's referencing isn't actually in context to what's happening in the movie. And I don't know, dude. I didn't like Big Bang Theory either for, like, the very similar jabs of, wow, aren't these nerds so weird? But my issues with this movie from 2003 isn't how it handles progressive empowerment ideas, or even this jab at, wow, nerd means funny weirdo. My issue with this movie is specifically with the character of Phil. Deep breaths. Phil is this bumbling best friend, sidekick, comic relief character, another friend who is fired from the cereal company with Charlie at the beginning of the film. When Charlie comes to him with the idea of opening a daycare service, he is at first apprehensive to the idea, but agrees nonetheless, and they open the daycare together. And Phil sucks. He really sucks, and I generally hate him. Throughout the course of the film, Phil kind of undermines Charlie's efforts with the daycare. While this can be interpreted as being kind of the voice of reason because they didn't have any like prior experience in childcare, and the idea was essentially really a spur-of-the-moment decision for Charlie, Phil's undermining tendencies continue to even the point where he even insults Charlie's parenting, which I find was completely unwarranted.
We're not even good parents. I'm a good parent.
And it's something I kind of also view as him projecting his own insecurities with how he handles his own child, which it was none of his business to like, whatever the fucking noise that was, and mock Charlie's parenting. I mean, fucking dick move. And when the other kids at the daycare are like causing mayhem and chaos and destruction, particularly the scene where the kids are tearing apart Charlie's backyard, he seemed just kind of like standing about as if they don't have a literal fucking tractor-style lawnmower? Seriously, what's this fucking guitar supposed to do for you? Why these kids are putting them in actual lethal fucking danger? Another instance of him being like a bad employee for this business is the scene leading up to them originally hiring Marvin as the third care provider for the daycare. The scene opens with Phil sleeping on the job. His job as basically a nanny, a fucking daycare provider. and 2 little girls are putting makeup on his face. When is it ever actually acceptable to sleep on a job as a daycare provider? This kind of irresponsibility isn't worth this cheeky, "now I'm a big girl," borderline transphobic joke. Not even to mention the entire, subplot line of Phil's son Max regressing in his potty training. I don't see why this was ever a comedic plot line at all. "Oh my god, so funny, child poops and pees all over the floor." It's something that any sane parent would actually seek medical help for, because having your fully potty trained child suddenly regress back to shitting and pissing on themselves is not normal. I personally think, out of both Charlie and Phil, that Phil is a bad dad. I get not liking changing diapers. Oh, believe me, I understand. I've changed enough diapers to know. And oh my god, it was so funny in that bathroom flashback how baby Max was pissing in the air. Haha, so funny and relatable, hilarious. But if you're gonna have a child, you have to be able to take care of them, including changing their diapers. You can't expect the mother to be there 24/7 for that child. So what did you do when your wife was gone for an extended period of time? Leave your kid in a shitty diaper until she got back to change him? Go knocking on your neighbor's door for help? I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to go for the neighbors, because when Max was shitting himself in Charlie's yard, he begged Charlie to deal with changing his son's diaper instead of stepping up as a parent and handling the problem. Seriously, Phil sucks. Phil fucking sucks. Now let's reel it back in for a minute, because I'm getting heated. I'm slurring my words and everything because I can't fucking talk. But let's talk about the overall conflict of the film. Since Charlie and Phil opened up a competitive daycare service, the principal of Chapman Academy Preschool is pissed off that they are essentially taking her clientele. So many of her students are enrolling to go to the more affordable competition, right? However, when you really compare the two businesses and their entire model of operation, Chapman Academy and Daddy Daycare are not even remotely the same type of business when we get down to semantics. While both locations provide daytime childcare services, Chapman Academy should never, ever have been advertised as a daycare. And I don't understand why so many of the parent characters treated it as one. Chapman is a preschool and is intended as a place to go for your child to get ready for regular schooling. While daycare can no doubt lead to your child becoming more socially ready for a school environment, ultimately it's not really a daycare's job to teach your kids to do things like read and write and other things like that, but rather just to really supervise your kid through the course of the day while you can't. Chapman should have been only advertised as a program exclusively for getting your kid ready for school and not as a daycare. And I think the misconception of their program is why so many of the parents were pissed off through the course of the film at this preschool. They weren't the best daycare around, they were just the best alternative to a traditional daycare that the parents were willing to send their kids to, since there wasn't a reputable actual daycare service in their area. In fact, I think the central conflict of the principal of Chapman trying to sabotage Daddy Daycare is kind of ridiculous, as she is seen to enforce very strict standards for her facility, including not allowing kids who suck their thumbs or children who are not fully potty trained, which is normal for transitional schools, by the way. Daycares, however, typically accept kids as young as 18 months old, because the point of a daycare is essentially just to babysit your kids while you're at work or something. I feel her business would not have been struggling after Daddy Daycare opened if she properly advertised her academy as what it was, a high education preschool and not a daycare, because it wasn't a daycare. Because a lot of the parents would want their kids to succeed academically anyway, and would probably decide to enroll their kid in her school because they wouldn't be looking for a babysitter, they'd be looking for the kind of program she offers. And I know, if I was a parent, I'm not, but if I was a parent, I would look for programs like Chapman because I value education. Call me heartless, oh no, my kid wouldn't be having fun at a daycare, but my kid can be playing with blocks at home. Charlie busting into Chapman at the end of the movie was just a revenge tactic to crash Hartigan's business in order to advertise his own, which one can argue that it was warranted since she took so many steps to try to sabotage his business, but she never directly went in front of any of the parents to tell them his business was bad and to come to hers instead. And while we as the audience think it was a dick move for her to continuously call the child services on Charlie, we have to acknowledge that every time the child services agent went to investigate Daddy Daycare, there was indeed issues that needed addressing. So while she didn't intend to do this to help Charlie in his business, it ultimately did by allowing him to efficiently correct the mistakes in order to stay in business. You can also argue that it was warranted because she did so much to sabotage their festival, but Charlie and the crew never saw her do any of this. For all they knew, it was just one series of bad coincidences after the next. It's situational irony for us because we saw her being a bitch, but Charlie, without seeing her actually do any of the shitty behavior towards his business, decided to go and solicit inside of her school, which honestly, I think is kind of an uncharacteristically dick move of him. Now let's get into the money issues with Charlie for just a hot second here. It was shown through a few instances that Charlie and Kim had some money problems, even showing in a scene after they paid all their bills that they had less than $1 in their bank account. So how exactly did Charlie afford all the equipment he got for the daycare? Did Phil chip in by chance? Did he just spend his family's savings on the stuff without consulting his spouse on his idea? Then you get to the issue of Daddy Daycare as a business not being able to afford to move into their new building. But isn't that just something you theoretically would get a loan for? If you can't afford the building, then how did you afford to put on this giant fucking carnival fundraiser thing? Rides, petting zoo, food services. Where did you get the funds for all of this? Was there already a carnival there and you just said, hey, let me fundraise here? You have all of these t-shirts, the large banner, branding signage, everywhere. Where did you get the money for all of this? Because that's thousands of dollars worth of promotional material for this fundraiser that could have been put towards the building. Did you get a loan for your fundraiser? Then we get into the epilogue of the movie, and I know that it's implied that due to Daddy Daycare's success that Harrigan's preschool goes out of business, and that she gets a job as a crossing guard, but why? She ran one of the most prestigious preschools in the area. I mean, it had SAT prep for fuck's sake. Are you trying to say that parents just en masse unrolled their kids after Charlie's little stunt? If people are not being able to afford the tuition was the issue, you can adjust for that. But given the academic excellence the school portrayed, she would still undoubtedly have plenty of parents wanting their kids to have that kind of education. But let's say that her business did in fact fail, strictly only because of Daddy Daycare. That so many people didn't care about the educational benefits to Chapman, that they all just switched and she went out of business because moving to a new area, which is 100% completely not an option. But why a crossing guard? Even without her active business, she ran one of the best preschools around and undoubtedly had some hefty credentials, especially based on her education curriculum alone. Why would she not be able to get another job in that field, or either education or more childcare or something like that? Plus, this is a really weird flex, shitting on crossing guards. Why is that the route they wanted to go to show just how much of an awful downgrade it is from being a preschool principal? Being a crossing guard is an undervalued and very dangerous role in the community because many drivers, they don't give a fuck. They will assume they are hot shit enough just to go around you, especially in my city. Respect the crossing guards. In the end, Daddy Daycare is shown to have a completely renovated building and is operating as a pretty large-scale facility, but let's just ask this. How? How? Because let me tell you, I just got done remodeling my downstairs in my dinky little fucking house, and that shit takes forever if you are hiring people to come in and do it for you. It took us over a year to get everything done, and you expect me to believe that a business that was struggling to fundraise enough for the space got the building super decked out in 6 months? And how did they afford the building, plus renovations anyway? They said at the end of their failed fundraiser that they didn't even earn enough to put a dent in the cost that they needed. Did they ask people to donate to them, around the neighborhood? Did they do another fundraiser? Where were they operating before they got the funds for the building, considering they solely, drastically, had probably a lot more than 12 children enrolled if we assume that parents were just yanking their kids out of Chapman immediately after the stunt that Charlie pulled? Did they finally get their loan? This is all incredibly unhinged and really stupid, but I want answers to my questions. I wonder if any of this is solved in the sequels, because I honestly didn't watch either of them. If you like this video and want me to do more, like, completely unhinged ramblings about either of the sequel films, I guess, let me know. I know no one asked for this, but this is what y'all get from me. Anyway, please like and subscribe to the channel. It means the world to me. I got some other movies lined up that I also want to unhinged ramble scream about, so there is that. This video, like all of my content, is brought to you by Patreon, so thank you so much to Ippo, Chrome, Nick, and Ashley for subscribing. If you want to support me on Patreon, tier start is as little as $1 a month. Link in the description. Additionally, links to all my shops and socials and stuff like that is also in the description. And with that, this is Minji, Unhinged, signing off until next time.
I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. 'Cause I can't move on till I let